going to tell you all about what happened after I found out that my husband of 7 years was a child predator. I'm going to tell you as best I can through TikTok. There are some things I can't go into huge detail about simply because of the nature of the topic. But I really want to get across how serious CSAM is, because I think to a lot of people who have never actually had any experience with it, they don't grasp what it is. I think they're imagining little girls being posed nude for photos or doing inappropriate things for their age, but I don't think they understand exactly what it is. And what I saw is something for a year, it went on for a year. Anytime I tried to go to sleep, the little girls that were in those videos and those photos would be in my dreams. And they would be screaming and begging me to save them. And it was like I couldn't move, and I couldn't get to them, and I couldn't save them. And my husband was getting closer and closer to them. And what I saw would play out in my dreams. And at the end, they wouldn't be alive anymore. Then that is when I would be able to move to get to them. And you can imagine what that does to someone when it goes on every single night. You know, when you close your eyes that you're going to see that. And I tried really hard to not sleep for a while, but that can make you crazy. And then that turned into I would just see them during the day, and it felt like I was going crazy. And eventually my victim's advocate realized something was really wrong, and she got me in with the trauma team. Our base had a trauma team, and they saw me. And it wasn't as helpful as I wish it had been. I think they didn't know how to handle it. When you talk about people who get PTSD from the military, there are some pretty awful things that I think Marines probably see and experience. But the trauma team I worked with could not handle me telling them what I saw. They didn't know how to help me through it. And in the end, I ended up in the hospital for about a week because I couldn't stop drinking. I was literally drinking the moment I put my kids to bed. I would start drinking, and I just kept drinking because I knew if I drank enough, when I fell asleep, I would fall asleep so hard that I wouldn't dream. And of course that meant in the morning I was waking up with a huge hangover and trying to parent my kids. It was really hard, and obviously I didn't do a good job, and people did get involved, and it's probably the worst period of my life. Thankfully, the CPS worker who got involved was extremely kind, and they did everything they could to make sure that my kids stayed with me and that I was able to recover. But to know that my husband was a part of those kids' pain, to know that he could have and maybe did go on to hurt our children, it's awful. And the pain he left behind, what he did to me just from seeing the little that I did. Can you imagine the kind of person it takes to see what I saw and not have this response? It didn't destroy him. In fact, he wanted more. And so I don't understand how a judge can look at someone like that and proceed to give them a minimum sentence and proceed to say that they would be safe to re-enter society someday. Because how does someone who is so depraved that something like that didn't destroy them how do they ever recover? Because I don't see how they do. I don't see how someone who can't be impacted like this to something as horrific as that could recover. And I think the issue is the judge had never seen something like that. I think that it's impossible to try them effectively when judges are sitting there going, well, it matters if it was, just a child or if it was like a 16-year-old. And it's almost like they're imagining consenting. They're almost imagining like children are consenting to this, like they're enjoying this, and that is not the case. This is torture. This is torture that ends with some children dying. This is horrific. It's not something that should be based upon consensual acts. There is nothing consensual about this. There is nothing gratifying to the child for this. It's monstrous. And it's one of the worst things that I can imagine could ever have happened out in the world. And it just makes me so angry that so many people are still sitting here not understanding the gravity of what CSAM is. It will ruin your life just to see a glimpse of it. It can ruin you forever, and there are some things that are going to stick with me for the rest of my life. I'll never forget them. When we're out in big crowds of people, I still look at all the little kids that are walking by because I have some ridiculous hope that maybe I'll spot one of them that I saw and maybe I can save them. Because I know that so many of these kids, they're not going to be saved. And I remember NCIS just telling me, let us do our jobs and we'll find them. And I knew they don't find them. They don't find them all. They're not going to be able to help some of them that they're going to find too late. And it's just the worst possible thing he could have done in my mind.